Good evening, it's Roger here from the Grub Street Journal, and I'm just waiting for Ranjan to join me. Just see that we are live. Roger here from the Grub Street. Yep, and so we are. So anyway, I've had a busy week. It's midsummer here yesterday in Sweden, so we all danced around the midsummer pole and had some good fun. I've had a good conversation earlier with John Ward from the Slog, and I had another one with David Malone from Hyperland, yeah, just reflecting really on well, the last 15 years, which is indeed quite a long time. I moved to Sweden in 2020 and began autodidactic course of study in music and philosophy, of all things. And prior to that, I'd spent 7 years living a wonderful life as Lord of the Manor. Now, in 2008, obviously, there was the financial crisis, and some people would have us believe that there's another financial crisis imminent, but of course masked by the fear, uncertainty, doubt around one Donald J. Trump's willingness or otherwise to join Israel in its attack on Iran. And for those of us of a certain age that remember the first Iraq War in the 90s, and then of course the second in the early 2000s, the rest is so familiar, and this familiarity has sort of provoked in me a need to really just rake over some of the ashes of past narratives, and here we are. So my partner in crime in terms of raking over the coals is Ranjan. Anyone that's followed my own work over the last few years will know that Ranjan and I are given to occasionally posting recordings, actually, of our conversations. Skype is no longer, it's now part of Zoom, and Ranjan and I have been talking on Skype since 2017. Which kind of made it sort of easy. Doing a live stream via StreamYard, which I'm using at the moment, embedded in a Substack, they call them newsletters, don't they, is really what I'm sort of, well, that's what we're doing now, and we've done this once or twice before. And what I wanted to do was talk to Ranjan about this post here, which you can see the window here. If I just play that. Okay, and if one scrolls down, the title is The Great Monetary Marionette Show, a Chestertonian Revelation, Event 202.5, aka Israel, US v Iran, all watched over by the Fat Controller, the BIS, Bank of International Settlements. And they really are the bad guy in all of this. And minor characters are this gentleman here, one Nigel Farage, and the so-called Reform Party in the UK. I want to get some feedback from Ranjan and what he makes of that photograph, which was the photograph accompanying this post by the Thinking Coalition Substack. Yeah, just to sort of set that up here. So what are reform all about? The political class in general are all about implementing the cabal's agenda, and reform is no exception. This agenda includes digital ID, forever wars, death cult, late-stage abortions, euthanasia and green tyranny, and more or less anything that subjugates the individual. This was illustrated in my analysis of the sources of funding behind both euthanasia lobbying and abortion lobbying. C5. I'm dying to click that number 5 there, but I shall resist the temptation for now. When following the money, we find the usual suspects, with most of the Westminster political class acting as enablers. During COVID, Farage famously endorsed Tony Blair to lead the vaccine rollout, which meant the imposition of digital ID in the form of Blair's COVID pass scheme. 2 cabal servants acting as a tag team to implement a cabal agenda item. I prefer the word cartel to cabal, by the way. When Farage does eventually oppose something, it is often well after the horse has bolted and is generally performative. WHO pandemic treaty, for instance, IMO, the eternal IMO. And I had an exchange of comments earlier with Baz and his blog, which is an interesting exchange of views, which led me to sort of add in some other sort of things that occurred sort of based out of that, particularly to do with Dawkins and the selfish gene and all of whatnot. So at the bottom of the blog, you've got the top posts on my Substack here, which you can scroll through sort of at your leisure. But what I really want to do is get Ranjan's take, starting off with that picture of Farage. So this is embedded in my YouTube channel, which has been going since 2009, would you believe? And the windows that appear here, Putin will invade Europe, is the new Iraq, has weapons of mass destruction. It's G.K. Chesterton here. Truth, of course, must of necessity be stranger than fiction, for we have made fiction to suit ourselves. And here's Donald Trump in an imagined scene on Epstein Island, which I made a little joke about. So still no sign of our Ranjan, 8 minutes in. So I shall just see what has become of my fencing partner. Let's have a look.
Yes, Roger.
Hello, mate. How you doing? Is the link not working?
Yeah, the video's on.
Oh right, you're not in my my panel to let you in here.
It's still a bit early. Do you mind if I now have? Are you ready? Just one cornetto.
No, go for it. Have some Viennetta.
Yeah, and then I'll be back.
All right, mate. Lovely job. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.
In a bit.
There we are. Ranjan is on dessert. Right. So, what should we do here then? Notes, which is turning Substack into Twitter. Let's just scroll down. Here we are. This is the one. Saw this earlier. It's really rather good. Well, it's jolly well done. I really don't know if the sound came out there. Can I? Let me just see. No, I'm not going to mess about with the tech of all of this. Anyway, that was very good. I'm glad I scrolled down through notes. And then this was the exchange I mentioned earlier with Baz. So this is an imagined discussion with a psychiatrist and the world, an anthropomorphized world, which was an interesting thought experiment. Just go back here, and let's just scroll down a little further when we're waiting for Ranjan. So I'm calling the current fear narrative event 202.5, which is a reference to event 201, which was the dress rehearsal for the pandemic. So following that would be event 202. Maybe Ukraine was event 202, and possibly therefore we're on event 202.5 or event 203. How you count them up is really up to you. And I've had G.K. Chesterton examine it. I did an AI novel earlier this year called The Clockwork Forest. I did event 202, a Chestertonian take on that, and this is event 202.5, which you'll find in this Substack thing. Here we are now. This is wonderful. Here's Donald Trump back in the 80s shining J.R. Ewing's shoes. Let's just open that and play the video. I'll do that on full screen here. Look. Yes, indeed. And that's not a deep fake, by the way. That's real. So that's quite interesting. Let's just go back here, see what else we've got that takes me fancy when we're marking some time here. Here we go. Right, so this is the Going Direct mind map. So the Going Direct mind map, what is that, I hear you ask? I've been working on this for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and it's opened here on the military industrial complex, oil, gas and mining, and finance, insurance and real estate tab. Now these are appellations which were invented or brought forth by a chap called Michael Hudson, who wrote a book called Super Imperialism. And this is a bunch of connected nodes around, here we are, Michael Hudson, economic warfare, finance, capitalism. So that's on my BitChute channel, which you won't be able to watch in the UK, obviously. Anyway, so here we go. Catastrophists. Right, so mild, sane and insane. I've got Gail Trevberg as being sane. I've got Roger Hallam of XR, Extinction Rebellion, as an insane catastrophist. I've got Dr. Tim Morgan of the Seas blog as mild. I've got Dmitry Orlov as sane. And these people tend to, I think, coalesce around the overpopulation idea. Ugo Bardi, who I think is completely insane. And then up here we've got there underlying narrative, which is artificial scarcity. And the common thread through it is money here. This one here is the difference between free trade and free markets. They're quite different things. Free trade is a East India Company thing, and I'm very fond of Edmund Burke's speech against the East India Bill in the House of Parliament in the late 1700s. Let's see if that actually has a link here somewhere. Oh, it's not linked there, so let's just put here and say East India. So you can search them and they should come up. No, nothing's come up there. Always got to worry when you type Burke into a search engine, huh? Nope, it's not come up either. Discontents. Oh, I'm busy making these bloody things, aren't I? Present. Anyway, you get the idea. You can click around to your heart's content. So, well, I quite like this podcast here. It's called Geopolitics and Empire, which I've been watching for a number of years, and there are a bunch of them on BitChute here. So obviously you won't be able to watch those in the UK. There is one actually with William Engdahl. Let's see if we can find it. Badly. And then just hold on, let's do this on the Four Pamphleteers. So that's David Malone, ex-Column 14 blog, and now Hyperland Ranjan, who should be joining us, or may not be by the looks of it, and John Ward of the Slog. I spoke to John earlier. I spoke to David of Gollum earlier as well, and I've spoken to Ranjan a couple of times today and haven't heard back. It's one of my favourites here. Look, CJ Hopkins. He seems to upset everybody, which seems to always be for me a good one. If people aren't upsetting lots of other people, generally means that they're not sort of giving it a full and open mind, as it were. Another favourite of mine here, Addicted to Distraction. That's Bruce Charlton. You'll see on the main page of the blog here, in Pride of Place, Addicted to Distraction. So this is Bruce Charlton on the mind map, which is that there. And let's see if we got the let's just click on click here. And we'll just scroll down here. And I know if I do this, find inversion, here we are. That's the bit I'm looking for. So, people and events presented by the media as good are always in reality bad, and people or events presented by the media as bad are usually, but not always, good. And when bad people or events are not presented as good, then they are condemned as bad for the wrong reasons. Also, if genuinely good things happen to be presented as good by the mass media, then it will invariably be the case that they also are said to be good for the wrong reason. Thus, the major output of modern international mass media consists of only 4 categories: good presented as bad, bad presented as good, that is to say, simple inversion; good presented as good for a bad reason; bad presented as bad for a bad reason, that is to say, explanatory inversion. These 4 categories, which can be summarized as either simple or explanatory inversion, account for all sustained and high impact modern major mass media stories, without any exceptions. Therefore, those who want to free their minds from the mass media must first avoid as much mass media output as possible, and secondly, develop automatic negativistic behavior towards the mass media output, which they cannot avoid. Usually, simple disbelief will suffice, and it is most efficient. After all, the mass media generates vast numbers of false stories all the time, and so it goes on. What else have we got here? Oh, this is a good one. This is an old article by C.J. Hopkins in Counterpunch, which also appeared in Off Guardian: Why Ridiculous Official Propaganda Still Works. So we'll quick look at that one. So, for students of official propaganda, manipulation of public opinion, psychological conditioning, and emotional coercion, it doesn't get much better than this. As Trump and his army of Goldman Sachs guys, corporate CEOs, and Christian zealots slouch toward Inauguration Day, we're being treated to a masterclass in coordinated media manipulation that is making Goebbels look like an amateur. This may not be immediately apparent, given the seemingly risible nature of most of the garbage we are being barraged with. But once one understands the actual purpose of such official propaganda, everything starts to make more sense. That's from January the 13th, 2017. Now, if I put in here Dennis Ran, is it Rancor or Ranacor? I'm not quite sure. To find out. Oh. Hello, mate. All right.
I've clicked the link on StreamYard.
Okay, I can't see you yet.
All right, let me have another look. And studio, sorry.
Say again?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Right, device is not connected. Here we go. Just carry on arranging. Here he is. Bum, 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 bum. I'm sure that was in here. Bum, 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 bum. There we are. There we go. Giving all my secrets away here. Let's have a look. Nope. There we are. Ranjan, hi.
Yo, what's going on?
Yeah, I was just fumbling around looking for Dennis Ranacor's article, which appeared sometime in, I think it was 2019. He does a lot of stuff on COVID these days, but it was it's a brilliant thing. It's actually linked to in Wikispooks under his page. I won't do that now. But yeah, anyway, I've been live for nearly half an hour, just thinking out loud in public.
Quite right.
Anyway, so right, let's just get back here to the the home page on which we are currently live. Did you see this earlier, Ranjan?
No, what's this?
Right. So can you see the screen as you're talking to me?
Yeah.
Right. Cool. So if I scroll down, right, can you see that picture of Nigel Farage?
You did say that he's dressed up.
Well,
It's
he looks like Uncle Sam, but he's got a Union Jack on. And this guy, Thinking Coalition Substack, it used to be called Thinking Slow, I think, during COVID. Anyway, Judas Ghosts for the Globalists. He's calling out Farage, which I think should be done, because I think Farage is kind of like a Trump in waiting, and will always sell out the base like he sold out his base in UKIP. He really is.
Yeah, can I tell you something about that picture from here? Something that picture reminds me of. On Thursday, I went to see a film about Leni Riefenstahl.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it's a new documentary about her. And whenever she appeared on German television from the 1960s onwards, because she did 20 years of no TV, but whenever she appeared on German television, they would sometimes say to her, they would accuse her of Pied Piperism.
Oh.
So in Germany, that's a thing. You know,
I know. I used to live in Germany, so there's a Pied Piper of Hamelin. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe Pied Piper in Germany is like their kind of way of almost like dog whistle.
Yeah. I'm just saying hello. We have a live viewer. Terry. Hi, Terry. So, yeah. So the Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Say hello to Terry from me.
Yeah, hello from Ranjan. Well, he can hear you if he's watching. Or she, because Terry can be he or she, can't it? Yeah, so that's interesting. So for people who don't know, Rennie Rosenthal was Hitler's propagandist, made lots of sort of arty propaganda films, didn't she?
Yeah, she did the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I think she did something else, which was, I think it's called Triumph of the Will.
Yeah, lots of blonde, scantily clad maidens prancing about and vigorous young men sort of doing exercises and whatnot, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
very, very, very Teutonic.
But yes, so so you were mentioning Farage. So what's your take on politics and money, including?
Right, well, the big debate, obviously, over the pond is whether Trump has sold out, whether it never bought in. But clearly, the MAGA base is pissed off. You mentioned earlier when we were talking about Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson. Obviously, Steve Bannon, he's sort of holding the line, as it were. Sort of, we'll wait and see. But of course, Trump is not talking to Gabbard. Apparently, Hexeth has been drummed out the brownies, and the only people that Trump is listening to are actually like Warhawk type people. Obviously, not John Bolton, who was interviewed by the FT yesterday. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah.
Bolton is very interested in Iran. Always.
Well, of course he would be, wouldn't he? I mean, Bolton is an awful human being.
You know about him and MEK? Do you remember that? Bolton went out to meet MEK in possibly Albania because they moved from Iran to Iraq.
What's MEK?
They were Iranian Marxists, but then in 1979, when the Ayatollah came in, they had helped create an environment in which the Ayatollah could come in, but they're Marxists and he's religious. So I think the Ayatollah asked them to kiss the ring. They said no. Then they started launching attacks from Iraq on Iran. So they became unpopular. And I think around 2014, Obama did a deal with them and said, you can come and live in Albania. But you remember that guy, David? Who's the guy who got stabbed? David with the curtains. Basildon, 1992 election. Basildon man. David.
Oh, what, an MP?
Yeah, with a W. David. Anyway, the I feel bad for getting his name, but yeah, the MP for Basildon, when he got stabbed, they did not make as big a deal out of this as they could have done. But actually, he was a friend of Iran in the sense that he was a friend of MEK. The person in charge of MEK is a woman called Mariam, and she lives in Paris. She's banned from coming to London. And they had photos of him with her meeting in Paris because she's banned from this country. What was his name? David Basildon, anyway. Now, I spoke to the guy from the MEK. They have a different name. And I realized after I spoke to him that he was MEK. But he said he'd known David since 1986, the Conservative Party conference. They spoke for the first time then. And I think the plan was for these guys, because Britain, like, do you remember you saying last Sunday they had Lord Brown, ex-BP, Anglo-Iranian.
Yeah.
They had the son of the former Shah.
Yeah.
But because they like to hedge, then they always wanted to have the option of putting MEK in charge as well. That's my take on it.
I see. Do you know on that, they also had a journalist called Amber Pura or something? I watched an interesting...
Christina Amber Pura,
yeah. She's got a thing with her ex-husband. They're both CNN. And she used to be married to him, and he's a US bureaucrat. It was quite interesting. They were divorced, but they've still got this podcast.
Right.
Yeah. Look, Terry, our sole viewer here, that's admitting to it anyway, has said, here we are, the NSDAP modelled themselves on their ultimate enemy, true story. So the NSDAP, I've said, what's that, Terry? And then the other point Terry makes is Albania and Kosovo has an interesting role in the story of the last 30 years. I know about Kosovo.
Apparently Kosovo have got massive friendship with Israel. And I hear that Albania...
apparently the NSDAP is a bunch of initials for the Nazis. National Socialist...
Democratic, come on.
What's the A then?
Don't know. But I think, yeah, apparently, because I've got people from Albania and Kosovo who live with, in my building, and Kurdish as well, Iraqi Kurdish and other Kurdish. And so I've been told that Albania has got a huge US underground base.
Yeah.
Kosovo, from what I've seen, has got like a big Israeli connection. They stick up for each other, I think. But I'm not...
Why Kosovo particularly? Well, I'll tell you what, actually, when we're talking about this stuff, Astana, right? Terry's just sort of said the Nazis, and then he says they sought to emulate the group strategy of the Jews. The Nazis, I presume, is what he means by that. Well, there's one idea that Israel will go from Israel to Ukraine, but then there's another one that they will go to Astana, and then there's another one that they'll live in all those ghost cities in China or something.
But is Astana, is that supposed to be the capital?
It's in Kazakhstan. It's right. Like this very strange capital city that they've built.
Right. That's for the leader, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of it has been Lord Rogers designed,
Leader, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like Washington. There are all sorts of sort of, Masonic-like sort of monument type things. It is very strange. I mean, it's bloody odd. Well, anyway, getting back to the moving of the center of the empire's hegemony, right? So my thing at the moment is that the petrodollar isn't about US hegemony, it's about the global empire's hegemony. And the global empire excludes nationalism. So basically, American citizens don't count because they're not in the club. So Trump is either working for the empire in support of empire hegemony, or he's a Jacksonian, perhaps not with a full-on Jeffersonian bent, if we can put it that way. So
he's masquerading as a Jacksonian.
Well, I would say so, although Jackson was fairly complicated. I prefer Jefferson and Franklin. You kind of know where you are, and they're definitely not Hamiltonians. But what I noticed was that they tried to sort of big up Hamilton. You know, they did that musical, which is kind of like American historical revisionism as to who Hamilton actually was, Alexander Hamilton. You know, the Federalist Papers and all that good stuff.
Yeah, to be honest, I know fuck all about this. What I can tell you is that Hamilton is regarded as someone who, did he start Chase Manhattan or Bank of New York? One of those two. And that his idea of central banking is one which,
yes,
you sort of remember.
Here's my thing. I'm getting excited now. Okay. You talk about Hamilton, right, who I think was an East India Company man, and obviously the Bank of the United States is what he wanted, right? Benedict Arnold. Now, Benedict Arnold was a traitor, a treasonous colonel in the army of rebellion against the British. Okay, and he defected back to the UK and married this woman, married the wrong woman. And I think that Benedict Arnold, like Farage, is kind of a Benedict Arnold going the other way. I think Boris was a bit like that, but I think Netanyahu's like that too. And he married the wrong woman, and he married a Russian, and that sort of brings in this extra element to what's happening with Russia and Iran at the moment. Not Russia and Iran, Israel and Iran. And obviously the idea that Netanyahu fermented October the 7th, and then obviously the horrific genocide in Gaza, and then has gone on from that now to kick it off with Iran and all the rest of it to stay in political power. And Benedict Arnold was sort of like that, just not with the same amount of pull. But he did marry the wrong woman, and so that's the connection there. But how in hoc is Netanyahu to Russian oligarchs? So this brings in then Brendan O'Connell and the Talpiot program and Israeli intelligence, and you know, is Microsoft a US company anymore? Certainly, the chip manufacturer, what's that? Isn't anymore. And you know, the Pentiums, whatever used to be in all the computers, whatever they're called. It's so this blurring of the line between the United States as a nation, Israel as a nation, whatever you think about those two places as nations, they're sort of melded together in the service, by my argument, of the Bank of International Settlements. I don't know. I don't want to put words in Terry's mouth, but I'm not sure if Terry thinks that the Bank of International Settlements is Jewish. You know, I don't believe it is. I do believe the Rothschilds are involved, but banking is actually much more syncretic than favouring the older of the three Abrahamic faiths, as it were. And all of the Orthodox Abrahamic faiths actually reject usury, which is my position, as you know. So yeah, Farage's first job was to banjo the BNP, and secondly to protect the city from the EU regulation. Possibly, but I think the EU and financial regulation, particularly now with the ECB, Terry, sort of gives the lie to what Farage is up to. I just think he's a Judas goat. He looks good next to Starmer, but paying any attention to that political theatre, I think, is a mistake. I know you're not quite with me on that, Ranjan, are you? You're a bit more.
What? I pay attention to the pictures, are you saying?
Well, no, but it's difficult between you and me because I believe in the rule of law and, you know, the best justice money can buy. Except I do think legal aid should assist those that can't afford it. And you're more cynical about that than I am.
Well, it's the first time I've ever heard you say I believe in the best justice money can buy. I mean, good for you. Good for you.
Well, that was a joke, by the way.
It is, that's what the rule of law is, though, isn't it? So
well, yeah,
I've fallen for
a president, especially when it comes to banking. That's precisely what it is.
Roger, have I fallen for your trap?
I'm not setting traps, I promise you.
I have fallen for your trap, haven't I? Because you said it, and I said, "Ha, got you," and you said, "Yes, you have." And so now I look like I'm completely cynical. Fair enough.
Well, I'm cynical. There's nothing wrong with being a cynic.
I know, but you do often seem quite upbeat about everything as well.
Yeah, we must channel our inner Diogenes, mate.
Yes. So,
woof, woof.
yeah. Was he that smart guy who made loads of money just to prove he could?
I'm not sure he did. I mean,
I think
Diogenes. My favourite one is when he told Alexander the Great to get out of his son because he was in the shade.
Okay.
But yeah.
So what about these next? What about what's been happening and what's coming up? As you know, the only thing I've been interested in, I've taken a slight break from it, is the shake-up of the pensions and the way in which.
Oh, you're taking a break from that? That's a shame. I think that's.
I'm taking a break. I mean, no. I mean, it's not not properly. I'm going to look at it again, but I mean, I saw a good video from a financial advisor who basically just said your default pension, if you're on defined contribution, is now 10% going to. He didn't say private equity, but he basically said we don't really know where that's going. That can just go anywhere, and you won't be told. 10%. Unless you find a way of jumping out of your default scheme. The government have done it under the Mansion House Compact from 2 or 3 weeks ago. From now on, your default 10% of your pension, if you're in the default pension, can just go to much riskier stuff.
Yeah.
And not many people explain that, but this guy did. So I was quite pleased because it's what I was thinking was happening. But somebody said it who wasn't a journalist, but who was a financial advisor. So that was good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, the government, Angela Rayner's department, released a thing on Friday about affordable housing funding and whatnot. And then there were a bunch of press releases that went along with it.
She's not getting anywhere near as much money as she wanted.
Oh, well, this was a big number. And
not like she wanted, apparently.
Yeah, but it had a quote from someone called Pocket Living, and Pocket Living is actually run by an ex-minister in the Blair government. You know, I mean, for me, it just confirms the idea that what they call themselves changed Labour want is to herd everybody into barracks in 15-minute cities. And what have you. So,
okay. I'm just wondering if Pocket Living with a Dutch company that I'm.
No, well, there might be a Dutch one, but this is a British one. I forget the guy's name. He used to be a client of the law firm my ex-wife used to work for.
That's it. Yeah, it's founded by a guy called Mark Vlessing, who's Dutch. Because I remember seeing an article. Yeah, here it is. I saw this article with this guy. And I think it was, I couldn't find it online, but I'm just going to send it to you now. Am I going to send it? I'm going to send it to you on WhatsApp. Because I sent it to you because he was talking about modular housing, which they have done in Holland. Sorry, everyone, if that's boring, but there you go.
Yeah.
I just sent it to you on WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp? Oh, right, let me have a look.
This is the Pocket Living Guide, because it rang a bell. I was reading the paper at the time, and in the Observer there was a section on it.
Yeah, they tend to build big blocks of flats that, I'm not a big fan. What was the guy's name now? He's on the board, the guy. It'll come to me in a minute. Yeah, but anyway, I read that and I kind of thought, oh, blimey, I have to be careful what I say because I'm a property developer and all the rest of it.
What do you mean? You have to be careful. You did what you mean? You can't say anything rude.
Well, no, I do. I mean, I did one on LinkedIn the other day on Keir Starmer's feed, and it was taken down as in breach of community rules. It was a joke. Shall I read it? Actually, it's quite funny.
Yeah, you back on LinkedIn?
Well, LinkedIn is Facebook for businessmen, and as you know, I'm not a big fan of either Facebook or LinkedIn. But let me read this. This might make you laugh. Actually, where are we? Is this the one? Can't remember when I did it. Hold on, I know where I'll find it. Because I sent it to Steve. Let's have a look. Hold on, it is in here. Bear with me. Starmer. It was all at the time that Bilderberg. Here we are. This is it. Here we are. This might make you laugh. Right. Yeah, look. This is LinkedIn. Your comment doesn't comply with our professional community policies on spam and scams, it says. So here it is. Right. Are you ready? Right.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel, VC founder, techno realist. Starmer's extract, AI tool, 3-minute document processing, is textbook bureaucratic innovation, digitizing decay rather than dismantling it. Meanwhile, Davos rebans central panning as shit piss initiatives with BlackRock's ESG machinery poised to monetize public data under strategic system euphemisms. Right, so here we go. Views mine, shit piss acronym satire. Memo, internal briefing sent from Grand Hotel Stockholm from Peter Thiel. Subject, shit piss, initiative, analysis, and Starmer's extract gambit. Hi, Keir, some pointers you might want to talk through with Larry when you see him. Key observation, Davos shit initiative, sustainable human infrastructure task force. Purports to address systemic inefficiencies via AI-driven urban planning frameworks. Bilderberg's Stockholm sidebar aims to rebrand it under BlackRock's PISS, Planning Intelligence Strategic System, leveraging ESG capital to monetize public sector data. Core flaw relies on the same bureaucratic logic that created the UK's 515 days Section 106 delays. It sort of goes on. Anyway, extract made me think, right, how do you take the piss out of extract, which is this new sort of little sort of AI thing that Keir Starmer was proudly presenting. You know, ooh, technology. Ooh,
are you serious? He presented something called extract.
Yes, yeah. So it was just sort of begging for the piss.
So that's why you said. So that's why you called it.
I decided to extract the piss. Yeah.
By the way, have you heard about have you heard about the government's new AI tool?
extract, it's called, isn't it? Or is there another one?
There's another one, and guess what it's called? I remember you
I've
told
no
me.
idea. Go on, let me know. What is it?
I remember what's it called? WEF were recommending one that was called, was it called Bureaucrat? You remember you told me that they were doing one called Bureaucrat. Well, the UK government, their one is called Humphrey.
Oh no. Oh dear. You know, my two new appellations of globalist-minded sort of technocrats are the Asperger's faction and the bipolar faction.
Right.
And clearly, yeah, obviously, they're both on the spectrum, but they have different sort of ways of approaching, essentially the same authoritarian top-down control, because they're the smartest guys in the room, obviously. So. I've been having a whale of time, to be honest. I've got to go in for a hip operation. I'm having a hip replacement, so
okay.
I'm back.
Is that coming up very soon?
Yeah, maybe in the next few weeks. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But, yeah. So I came over to the UK for a week on business. Then I came back, and I'm now sort of. Obviously trying to get stuff done business-wise before I have to sort of have a bit of a layup when they sort of lop my hip out or whatever.
Yeah,
it is
well, I'll still be here for our chats. So there you are.
Yeah, for sure. If you're good, I'll show you my scar. No, so yeah, so in some ways, I guess I'm sort of. I don't know. I'm making light of it a bit. I'm a devout chicken when it comes to all that sort of thing. I don't like the doctor at all.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah. So in general, the last week obviously was dominated by Israel kicking off with Iran, wasn't it? And then there was all the speculation about Donald Trump, and I just got to think. I was sort of looking at InfoWars and what Alex Jones was saying, and it occurred to me that what they were, none of them mentioned, they don't, is the Bank of International Settlements, which is clearly the baddie. I mean, they're the real pantomime villain, and no one, no one. Well, they used to. But they're not being mentioned at this juncture, and the people who go as far as say like there's a guy called Norton that did a very good analysis, but he stopped short of the BIS and how actually on his argument where you've got these polarities, which is a multipolar world order. This is my joke about bipolar or Asperger's, which is unipolar. Is actually part of the left-right binary, which is divide and rule. And the fat controller, and he is fat, is the Carstens guy at the BIS. And I
think he's moved on. I think he's moved on.
Oh, he's probably died. The other thing, Ranjan, that strikes me is that you've got that whole BIS shtick, but this is the distinction which is really important. It's like, do not conflate the British people with its government, the US people with their government, the Israelis with their government, or indeed the Iranians with their government. And the surprising thing was, we talked about Laura Kusenberg, Sunday Politics last week when Lord Brown was on. The Iranian ex-national, whatever she's called, anyway, her. The other one was Hugh Fernley-Whittingstall, and he made that point about don't conflate a people with its government. I mean, that's a deeply anarchist point, and which obviously I agree with. And Yeah, I was, I've got his cookbooks and stuff. I mean, I used to love River Cottage, but he's cut his hair a bit like, well, I've cut my hair as well, as you know. So, but there's a solid anarchist heart beating within the chef, the homesteader, which was wonderful to hear. But it was a very good point, and I meant to go back and revisit it and look at it. I think I mentioned to you at the time, hopefully he's not a pound shop Montbiot or something, Yeah. Are you still there, Ranger?
I am indeed. Hold on. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see you.
Jump out and jump back. Okay. Yeah, and there's people talking about PFI as well. Not much, but it is happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, what have they
the guy
recalled?
Do you know the company Weights?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy in charge of Weights was on the Today program saying we need to do PFI.
Well, he would do. It doesn't surprise me. Do you know that the great British housing scandal, the Adam Curtis film? Not Where the Houses Used to Be, but the other one. And talking about the system built sort of brutalist stuff. Weights were involved in that, and Lang's. It's the old subjects. I mean, it's basically just lining up peachy contracts for aligned government adjacent organization. Government adjacent. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Ranjan. You there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm having a little chat with Terry in the chat as well as we go. Keep going. I will try and multitask. If you watch.
Yeah. No, it's just that's it. So yeah, they say they want the PFI, they want the pension money, and they don't really count how good an investment is, where the scam is.
Of course they don't. Well, you've got to get back to Fat Larry, mate. It's an expression of central bank liabilities that they can't control. If the actuaries and the investment committees of pension companies do what they're supposed to do, then it can't be recollateralized in support of the global banking cartel's agenda. That's the point. And that is, that is the tell on what Starmer's government's all about. It's all about being in support of that agenda, and Trump's is too. So it's not about drill baby drill and the gold under the feet of Americans and energy and all the rest of it. And it's not even about the petrodollar. It's about the carbon currency end game is what it's about. And Iran is a danger to that because it can affect the power of a swing producer of both oil and gas. And it's always played second fiddle ever since the Saudis did their deal with Nixon's guy back in back in the early 70s when the US came off the gold standard. As you know, I'm not a gold bug. They're just as bad. An interesting factoid. Apparently, Peter Thiel was one of Ron Paul's biggest funders back in the day when Ron Paul was running for president. But hasn't he done well, our Peter? Wonderful.
Yeah, he seems to be rather an odd fellow. Roger, I am passing out. I know it's early. Let us chat again tomorrow if you're around.
All right, then. Well, Terry, me and Ranjan are shooting off. I'm going to get myself another glass of stout, have a nice cigarette, and then I'm going to curl up my toes and have a little sleep. take the weight off my dodgy hip. Ranjan, it's been fantastic. What's that
Likewise.
pub near Paddington we go to again? I forget.
The Sawyer's Arms.
The Sawyer's Arms, that's it. And you bumped into that Elliot chappie the other day again, didn't you? Matthew Elliott.
Ben Elliott, yeah.
Ben Elliott. Did he remember you from the last time?
He did, yeah. I mean, I think the thing is the fact that he confirmed who he was when I asked him, and I told him, I don't agree with anything that you say or do or anything, but I'm prepared to have a conversation with you. He was really nice.
Yeah,
I assume he's like an MI6 sort of cutout because his company, the accounts they just don't add up.
Yeah, well, quite possibly. So many of them are. Of course, Rory the racing car, Rory everything but politics, whatever he's called.
Yeah,
that's him all over, isn't it?
Yes.
Gabriel Gatehouse and that horrible man that used to be Blair's press secretary.
Yes.
You know
what? Actually, one thing that I have been asking, I've been asking my friend William. Yeah, I've been asking my friend William because Patrick Spencer is the Tory MP for Ipswich or something like that, and he was in court for sexually assaulting 2 women at the Grout Show in 2023. I've been asking. I've been asking William if he will put odds up for Reform taking that seat in 2026. So I don't think it's all very interesting because the Labour guy who he ran against got done for betting against himself.
Well, that's a sure way of picking a winner, isn't it?
Well, I think that meant that he wasn't allowed to run, which meant that Spencer automatically won.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he was paid off in the first place. The whole thing sounds a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be around tomorrow. Let's catch up soon.
All right, mate. I'm just
see you in a bit.
Brilliant. Ranjan, cheers, mate. Have a great evening.
And you. Bye.
Catch you. Cheers. Bye. Right. Well, I'm signing off now. Terry, thanks very much for the chat as well in the chat there. Really good. And next time, if you're feeling a little more up for it, do join in. Fantastic. Cheers, mate. Take care. Bye.